Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Squirm. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a different top 10 video. It's not even a top 10 really. I'm just talking about 10 different movies, but not in any particular order. And this is going to be, are these movies horror movies or non-horror movies? Now I see a lot of discussion over when I was back on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, saying certain movies are actually horror films. And I'm scratching my head sometimes thinking, really? Now, don't get me wrong, in this list, this is not saying I am right, I am wrong. It's just my personal opinion about when I watch these movies, if I think they are horror movies or not. You may totally disagree with that, and that's fine. I am not saying that this is a genuine genre that these movies should go in or anything. It's just my personal opinion. And if you think different, and horror to me is sometimes subjective, that's fine. I'm just doing this for a little bit of fun, really. Now, saying that, I did see someone say Christopher Nolan has already made a horror movie called Inception, and I can't agree with that one at all. But if anyone came to me with any of the movies on this list and tried to make an argument for them being horror movies, you may be able to sway me at times. I mean, there's horror elements in these films that I've picked here, but some of them I just think are horror and some of them are not. They're classed as something else for me, but that's just my personal opinion, like I said, when I watch these movies. So let me know your thoughts, guys, down below. This is, like I said, there's not really a criteria, although I'm going to explain my reasons for why I think they are either horror or not, but I don't have certain criterias. It's just a feeling I get. So I may even contradict myself a little bit here in this video, but it's just a genuine feeling I get when I watch this movie. So let's just get into it now with the first movie on this list. Is it a horror or is it not, according to me? So the first movie on this list is going to be Jaws. Now, a lot of people do actually class this as a horror movie, and I can see why. It's definitely got an adventure movie feel to it in the second half of the film, but this is quite, haunting at times, where we got the John Williams score, just a simple note type of score going on there with the shark coming after people, and you just see it from that point of view. That's always quite freaky, I think. You see that woman at the start of the movie getting dragged under the water, but you don't actually see anything. Steven Spielberg keeps the shark hidden, until about an hour into the movie there. So it's always like, oh, what's this shark looking like and everything? How big is this damn thing? It makes you wonder. But what I think about Jaws is the fact that I do think this is a horror movie is that it just made people terrified to go into the water to even this day. I mean, it's 50 years now since this movie come out. And me personally, I am always wary when I step into the ocean, the sea. This film always does pop into my head. So yeah, I suppose psychologically, this is a horror movie. And it's the same for a lot of other people. Jaws actually is stuck in people's heads when they go into the sea there in case there's a shark about. And you can't blame them with that kid in a horrific scene, by the way. And this movie, I believe, is only like a 12 PG even at the time. That he's getting dragged under the water by the shark and there's just like blood swirling around in the sea. That's quite a shocking scene there. So yeah, for me, Jaws is a horror movie, and let's not forget that jump scare we get in the middle there that I never see coming. I always forget about that. But for me, I'm going to give this one a tick. This, Jaws, is a horror movie, and it's not just a horror movie. One of the greatest horror movies of all time. Next up, we have Jurassic Park, and people may think I'm contradicting myself a little bit there because they might say this is just like Jaws, but with dinosaurs coming after people, creatures, that once did exist, I suppose. But I see Jurassic Park as more as an adventure film, an action movie, really. It's taken us to a new world there in Jurassic Park, where, it's kind of like this big theme park. It's got a really fun, entertaining feel to it. I will admit there are two scenes in this movie that are kind of keep you on edge and are got really, they are, I suppose, horror scenes, I suppose, with the Velociraptors and the T-Rex. Where the T-Rex is flipping the car with its head, trying to get to the two kids. And the Velociraptor scene later on in the kitchen. Those moments are quite scary for children, I suppose. I mean, I don't think too many adults would be terrified of them scenes, although they will probably be on edge with them. But for me, I just see Jurassic Park, like I said, there's an adventure movie and with lots of fun characters and stuff. Yeah, probably a little bit scary for kids, but yeah, I can't put this in any of my favorite horror movie lists, although it is a fantastic film, of course. But for me, Jurassic Park, I'm going to put that in non-horror there. Next up, we have Aliens. Now, if I would class this as a horror movie, it'd probably top all my horror movie lists. Greatest horror movie ever made, because it's generally my top 5 movies of all time. But I think the first movie being such an isolation type horror film with just the alien coming after Ripley, and it's always so tense and scary and it stalks the halls. I just think Aliens is so different in tone that I can't really class it as a horror movie. It doesn't feel as horrific or scary as that first film. This just feels like more of an action movie. There's plenty of gunfire going off every few seconds with these characters, and there's a lots of, character development in this film as well. I wouldn't say there's too many scenes here with the aliens. Oh, look, there is, of course, but we don't see it until about an hour, something in there, and I just don't feel like the alien is utilized in a way that goes down the horror route. It's more of just bunch of aliens coming after characters and characters shooting back at them. I will say it's a little bit freaky when Newt is in the water and the queen alien comes up behind and stuff. That's a freaky looking scene. But again, when Ripley goes after Newt in the third act, it's kind of horror. It's kind of action orientated as well there. So yeah, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this one, but I do think the first one's a horror movie. I think the second one is more of a horror, of an action sci-fi film. So for me, Aliens is not a horror movie. Next up, we have Seven. I've heard a lot of people call this one a horror movie, but for me, I actually went to watch this in January. This is more of a thriller film for me. I do get why people think there is there is a lot of horror elements in it, isn't it? Especially towards the ending scene, a horrific scene that when we find out what's in the actual box there, that is quite horrifying, I suppose. But most of the movie is these two detectives bouncing off each other, just going to different crime scenes. And although them crime scenes are very sinister and stuff, it just feels more of a detective workout movie, like a detective movie. These two detectives trying to work out who this killer is and what's been going on there. So plenty of dark stuff in there, especially with the rain coming down all the time in this city and the lifestyle not being a very nice sort of place to live. It does have that very dark feel to it. But unlike a movie I'm going to talk about in a minute, which some people class as a thriller film, I do think if this one had a few more horror elements in there, you might be able to pass it as a horror movie. But for me, this is definitely a detective thriller crime movie. So for me, Seven is a non-horror film. And that movie I was talking about in a minute is now, and that's going to be The Silence of the Lambs. And this one, I do think has a very similar feel to Seven, but with much more horror incorporated into this film. Now, I think a lot of people class this as a thriller movie because it won so many awards at the Oscars and everything like that, and the Oscars, and people who are sort of pretentious film fans wanted to label this as a thriller movie because we can't have horror doing well at the Oscars now, can we? I don't see why not, but it's just always been a thing, hasn't it? Not too many movies in the horror genre have won awards there, even though they should, because horror is a fantastic genre. Well, for me, Silence of the Lambs, I'm going to go with this is actually a horror movie. I mean, you've got a fucking cannibal there biting people's faces off and stuff and being very sinister as Jodie Foster's character goes to talk to him. He just has this very scary presence around him, even though it's this smart-ass dude who helps with the investigation. But it's not only him who's the sort of villain in this movie. There's an even more sinister serial killer on the loose who's skinning women, for God's sake. I mean, Buffalo Bill is just such a horrible, vile person in this movie. And that scene at the end where he's got the night vision goggles coming after Jodie Foster in the house, Khalees Sterling, of course, her name is in that movie. Yeah, that one always used to freak me out. But there's an atmosphere about this film. It's very dark, and it just feels like there is danger around every corner. that clearly Sterling is going to turn around. It just feels like, you know, there's this city there with this very dark presence around it, being Buffalo Bill. So yeah, for me, I do think Silence of the Lambs is definitely a horror movie, and it made an iconic horror villain in Hannibal Lecter there as well. Especially, Anthony Hopkins is only in the movie for, I think it's about 15 minutes, but man, what a performance it is, and you just can't forget him with that mask on now, can you? So yeah, Silence of the Lambs for me, guys. Maybe another controversial one is a horror movie. Next up, we have one that came out just last year, and I really had to bring this one up, and that is Strange Darling, because a lot of people were putting this in their top 10 horror movies of the year and stuff like that. And this is a thriller film for me. It even says at the start of the movie, this is a thriller story. Comes up on the screen at the start by the title, opening credits and stuff. So even that movie is telling you it's a thriller film. And I do think it is. I mean, it is a thrilling ride along the way, with the movie being done in different sort of chapters. I mean, it starts at chapter 3, then goes to chapter 5, chapter 1. That's the thrill of the ride there. There are some moments in here that are quite horrific, but nothing down the path of horror, in my opinion. I mean, some of the kills here and stuff, they just feel like simple sort of movie kills that you see in action movies, sci-fi films, whatever you want to call it. I don't think there's a real horror element to this. Although a lot of people did like to label this as horror, so they could probably put it in their top 10 horror movies of the year, because it was that good of a film. I only watched it the other week with my wife, and we both loved it. That was my second viewing. That was her first, and she absolutely loved it. But for me, it just doesn't have that horror feel to it, unfortunately. So that, for me, Strange Darling, I'm going to say it is not a horror film. And if I keep doing this with my hand, guys, I'm trying to put an X in the box there with my hand. Yeah, I don't know. I've been doing that through the whole video there. But yeah, Strange Darling, non-horror. Next up, we do have Misery. Now, this is kind of like Aliens, where this would be very high on a lot of horror movie lists if I classed it as a horror film. If I'd done my top 10 horror movies of the 90s, or my top 10 horror movies of all time, and I thought Misery was a horror film, it'd probably be like first and second in those lists. But for me, I mean, it's a 10 out of 10 movie. It might just be a 10 out of 10 movie there, and I don't class too many films as a 10, but I just see this as a thriller film. I don't... It's hard to describe why I see it as a thriller film, because Annie Wilkes really does put you on the edge of your seat. She creates so many scenes full of tension, and James Caan is just stuck in this isolated incident, kind of like Ripley in the first Alien film, although it's not in space, obviously. But I don't know. There's too much back and forth and dialogue between the characters, and Annie Wilkes is actually being nice to James Caan's character at times, and to me that takes away the horror element, if you like. So I just see this more of a thrill ride, where James Caan might be able to get out, and then he's got to adhere to the rules because Annie Wilkes wants the story a certain way and everything. It's a great movie. It's a fantastic film. But for me, when I watch it, I don't see that as horror. I just see it as a great, fantastic roller coaster thrill ride that is never really scary. It's just tension-filled, edge of your seat moments for me. So for me, I know a lot of people are going to disagree on that one. Misery is a thriller film. I'm going to say non-horror there. Okay, next one is going to be Predator. Now, a lot of people do consider this a horror film, but for me, I just think there's way too much action in this film to consider it a horror. Now, don't get me wrong, the Predator, the alien there, is quite freaky at times. The way it just stalks these army dudes going through the jungle and stuff, kills people in horrific ways and everything. But all of the horror elements that this movie has is taken away by all of the action. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger is taking on all these like people who are living in the jungle and stuff like that. All these other army vets and stuff, just blowing doors through, saying knock knock, and throwing knives at the wall, sticking people's hands to the wall and saying stick around and stuff like that. It feels like an action film. It feels like a typical Arnie action film with horror elements in there coming from the first person view of the Predator. But Yeah, for me, there's just too much gun action in here, too much explosions and everything to make it a horror movie. Although the Predator is relentless and can be quite scary at times, I just don't cast it as a horror film, guys, unfortunately. So for me, Predator, non-horror there. Next up is going to be The Hitcher, and I do consider this a horror movie, guys. Now, I might be contradicting myself a little bit compared to the last movie because there's lots of guns and stuff and explosions and stuff in this film. But when I was a kid and I first watched this, John Ryder scared the absolute shit out of me. Even when I watch it now, I'm always on the edge of my seat and I'm like, oh, this guy's freaky as hell. Look at how it plays him so perfectly. But also, I do think there's a little bit of a supernatural edge to John Ryder. And what I mean by that is this C. Thomas Howell character just can't get away from this guy. And once you think he's got away from him, he will just appear out of nowhere. It's kind of almost like he's teleported to this place. And there's another moment where C. Thomas Howell is eating some chips. And he's picking them up. And then next minute he picks a finger up, and it's like, how did that finger get onto that plate? How has John Ryder done that? So there's horror, there's a little bit of horror to this character, in my opinion. Not to mention that no one really knows who this guy is. You know, they can't really ID him or anything like that. And that moment where he pulls apart that woman on the two trucks, fuck me, man, that is horrifying as hell. So yeah, I can see why people would call this a thriller action film, and I wouldn't really argue with that, but for me, I just get such a sinister feeling from watching this film, and I do class it as horror, and to be honest, it's in my top 20 horror movies of all time. I absolutely love this film. I love Rutger Hauer's performance in it. He is terrifying. So for me, The Hitcher, I'm going to give that one a tick. This is a horror movie. And last up, guys, is the one that is debated more than anything out of all the movies I see, and that is The Terminator. Now, at times, I've kind of gone back and forth on this one, whether I consider it horror or not. It's a very dark movie. It's quite scary at times. I mean, as a kid, I had a nightmare once that Arnold Schwarzenegger was coming as the Terminator, kicking my door down and trying to get to me and my mum. And I woke up in fits of sweats. I was like, I need to stop watching the Terminator for a bit because I used to watch this relentlessly as a kid. There are hearts being ripped out and stuff here at the start of the movie. And Arnold is just relentless. He will stop at nothing to kill this Sarah Connor character. And it almost, I will say, feels like a slasher film when he's going after these Sarah Connor characters. And a lot of people do say that this qualifies as a slasher movie because if he was using knives or machetes, it'd be a slasher film. But he's not. He's using guns. It's a big but. If he was, then yes, but he's not. He's actually going around with guns. So he's not. It's not really a slasher film, is it? Now, I will admit that, look, there is some very dark moments in this film. It's quite a terrifying movie at times, especially when we go into the future and stuff and see how bleak and depressing the future could be if this Terminator wins and kills Sarah Connor. But I just think there's way too much action like Predator in this movie for me, like the Technar scene, the police station scene, you know, even the chase and everything. It just feels a little bit more action sci-fi to me than horror. Although, if anyone argued the case with me here, I wouldn't argue back. I mean, if you feel like The Terminator's a horror movie, then that is fine. That is up to you. Like I said, it's subjective. But for me, when I watch The Terminator, especially with Terminator, like, I think a lot of people now sort of have the aliens thing, like I did with the second film, where they think it's more of a horror movie because the second one is even more of an action film. But I just don't quite get that feeling with this and Terminator 2 like I do with Aliens. So, yeah, for me, The Terminator is not a horror movie, non-horror, but it's close. It's close. It's borderline. So yeah, The Terminator, non-horror for me. Unfortunately, guys, for you who think it's horror, it's just not for me. But debate it in the comments. All comments are welcome. Okay, guys, hope you all enjoyed this little bit of a different video. Am I contradicting myself? Am I talking shit? Am I wrong? Or do you agree with my picks here? Now, I may do a sequel to this video if you guys could name some movies down below that maybe could give me another top 10, maybe like Godzilla -1 or something like that. I did have that in that list, but I swapped it in for Predator. Maybe we could do another 10. But, you know, I would love to do another one of these videos. I had a lot of fun doing this. If you want more top 10s, guys, I'll leave them down below in the description. And let me know what you think. So thanks so much, guys. If you like horror and this is your sort of thing, please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. It really helped me out. You all take care, and I'll see you all in the next video.